Imagine with me for a moment a young woman, poor, vulnerable, and alone in a field. This video is about her and what one person didn't have to do, but chose to anyway. But first, hi, my name's Corey, this is Redeemer Online, and it's my mission to help you understand and practice the Christian faith regardless of your church attendance. And if that's you, hit subscribe. Let's be honest. The Bible often seems irrelevant. It seems out of touch. The Old Testament in particular can be a nightmare to try and justify sometimes. You got to do all kinds of backflips to make sense of what's written there. But every now and then, when you read it, you'll find an immense level of poignancy. In this particular cultural moment, especially in the country that I happen to live in, but more broadly in the world, this moment could use the ancient words from this story. You see, it's a story about a young woman, poor, widowed, vulnerable, and alone. And what one person didn't have to do, but chose to do anyway. We're talking about the book of Ruth. And before we talk about what it's about and who it's for and why I find it so relevant for us today, let's go ahead and read the bit that we're going to unpack for today. In chapter 1, just to catch you up, we're introduced to two characters, Naomi and Ruth. Ruth is Naomi's widowed daughter-in-law, but she's a Moabite, the historic enemy of Naomi's ancestors, God's people, the Israelites. And in the first chapter of the story, Ruth displays a level of faithfulness and commitment that would have made every original Israelite reader blush. The historic enemy is held up as the shining star of faithfulness, going on a journey across the desert, back to the promised land. The author makes a note that this story takes place during the time of the Judges. This was a period of Israel's history when they had no king, and it's always described as a time of lawlessness where everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Now, Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out, entered a field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Now, believe it or not, this is actually an extremely dangerous venture for Ruth, because even though the law of Moses said that you should leave the edges of your field unharvested so that the poor, the foreigner, and the widow could gather food for themselves, and even though the law also demanded you only go through your fields once, you don't go back through to get what you missed. Whatever you missed is supposed to be left for those poor folks. Even though those were the laws, you have to remember that this is the lawless time of the Judges, when everyone was doing what was right in their own eyes. People didn't care about the poor, the immigrant, or the widow, which all describe Ruth, actually. People weren't interested in helping those in need, certainly not a historic enemy. If she were caught in the fields in those days, she would have been seen as a leech, a nuisance, a drain on resources. I mean, even if most people did tolerate leaving some of their profits to be picked up by the poorest of their own people, they certainly weren't going to let an immigrant take it. And remember, the book of Ruth opens by telling us that this was immediately after a decade of famine. It wasn't uncommon for disputes to break out in the fields amongst the hungry, for the poor gleaners to be run out, beaten, abused, or worse. Gleaners had to keep a distance. Fights were common. There wasn't much thought given to the poor and destitute when everyone's just doing what's right in their own eyes. And so Ruth takes a risk when she chooses to go out to a field. It's with great trepidation that she says those words, "Behind anyone in whose eyes I might find favor." Is anyone going to show me favor? Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you." "The Lord bless you," they answered. Boaz asked the overseer of his harvesters, "Who does that young woman belong to?" The overseer replied, "She's the Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters.' She came into the field and has remained here from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter." So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I've told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled." At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground, and she asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord," she said. "You have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants." So she finds herself in the field of this Boaz. And we, the readers, get signaled from the beginning that Boaz is a guy worth watching, although it's easy to miss. You see, the author tells us a few times that Boaz is from the Elimelech clan, and being from the Elimelech clan is significant. On the surface, it means, well, he's a relative of Naomi, which has all kinds of implications for responsibilities that he might have to poor old Naomi. But deeper than that, the name Elimelech is really two Hebrew words smashed together. Eli, meaning my God, and Malach, meaning the king, making the name mean my God the king. So here in the midst of a time where there was no king and everyone did what was right in their own eyes, the reader is introduced to Boaz, a man from the my God is king people. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar." When she sat down with the harvesters, he offered her some roasted grain. She ate all she wanted and had some left over. And as she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men. "Let her gather among the sheaves and don't reprimand her. Even pull some of the stalks out for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her." So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." And Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one at whose place she had been working. "The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz." "The Lord bless him," Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. "He has not stopped showing kindness to the living and the dead. That man is our close relative. He's one of our guardian redeemers." More on guardian redeemers later. Then Ruth the Moabite said, "He even said to me, 'Stay with my workers until they finish harvesting all my grain.'" Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It'll be good for you, my daughter, to go with the women who work for him, because in someone else's field you might have been harmed." So Ruth stayed close to the women of Boaz to glean until the barley and wheat harvests were finished, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Okay, it's kind of amazing, actually. In a tumultuous time in Israel's history, here's a picture of order. When selfishness, greed, dehumanization, and brutality rule the day, when the powerful do whatever they want, when everyone else is living as they see fit, Boaz is the picture of a different kind of person. Boaz is a picture of what life could be like, a picture of what life is like when God is king. His mercy towards Ruth shines like a light during those dark days, when the rest of the world was fighting over land, resources, and capturing and murdering foreigners. Boaz accepts Ruth. When the rest of the world is beating gleaners, abusing them till they leave their field, or worse, Boaz protects Ruth. And when the rest of the world draws a hard line distinguishing in from out, us from them, Boaz invites Ruth to glean close to his workers, not at a distance. When the rest of the world is hoarding provisions, Boaz offers Ruth water in the field. He invites her to take as much as she needs for her and Naomi. He invites her to the table for a meal. He gives her more food than she can eat in one sitting. When others are actively ignoring the laws of Moses, he goes above and beyond what the law of Moses required. Boaz is so incredibly generous, showing an abundance of grace and mercy to this poor, vulnerable immigrant. Because that's what people who truly believe that God is king do. That's what the people of God do. And the original readers of Ruth, the Israelites in exile, they would have looked up from this story, cut to the heart by that realization. The reason God cut them off, allowed them to be conquered, and carried them off to Babylon is because they weren't who they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be the my God is king people, but they weren't. Their leaders weren't examples of generosity toward the immigrant, provision for the poor, or inviting their enemies to a shared meal. They didn't go above and beyond what the law required. They ignored it altogether. in order to line their own pockets. God sent prophet after prophet telling them, if you don't stop trampling the poor, if you don't stop taking advantage of widows and orphans, if you don't stop abusing the immigrants, I will punish you. I don't want to hear your songs. I hate your worship. I hate your offerings. I hate your sacrifices. Stop with the religious performance. It's garbage to me. Justice, mercy, humility, those are the marks of a person who walks with God. It's not even remotely worth talking about people in power in the world in which you and I live, is it? Especially not when it comes to this. I think that message is pretty clear. But what about us? Are we the my God is King people? Am I? The example of Boaz cuts to my heart too. I mean, this guy is fresh off of more than 10 years of famine. He's got 10 years of lost profit to make up for, and yet his generosity is over the top for an immigrant, an outsider, the lowest of low in his society. Because that's what it looks like for the my God is King people. For those of us who call ourselves Christians, God gave everything for us. He didn't just give 2 or 5 or 10% of himself. He gave his whole self. Jesus is the perfect picture of what it looks like to live like God is King. He brought the will of God on earth as it is in heaven. He spent time with the lost and the lonely. He spent time with the sick and those with no sight and the sad-hearted. He protected the poor, the vulnerable, and the outsider. I mean, if you want to know what generous living looks like when God is King, just look at Jesus. In our faith, we believe that all of our selfish sin was put on Christ and that he was punished in our place for our sake. He gave his breath so that you and I could breathe. He gave his life so that we could live. How can we not be generous after what God has so generously given to us? We who don't deserve it. Listen, I'm not telling you that in order to be a good Christian, you have to go out and be a certain amount of generous. I'm telling you that generosity is a natural outflow of someone who believes the good news of the gospel. I'm not telling you what you should think politically, but I'm telling you that hospitality, generosity, kindness, and a special care for the poor and vulnerable is part of what it means to be a Christian. I don't want you to think that, well, if you're just more generous, God's going to accept you. That's not it. He's already accepted you, whether you're the most generous, hospitable person you know or the least. That's the good news of the gospel of our Christian faith. He generously gave his life for you, and now he's inviting you to live like God is King. In a world where the powerful do what is right in their own eyes, we see every person as beloved in God's eyes. So loved that God thought they were worth dying for. Them, me, and you. If you're trying to understand and practice the Christian faith in our world today, especially if you don't go to church right now, hit subscribe. We're here to help. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hit like if you like this video. Hit subscribe if you really liked it. Go ahead and share it with somebody who you feel like needs to hear it. Listen, we need more my God is King type people in this world. People like you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.